Hello, everyone. If you're just joining us, you are here for the Three Wells and Meter webinar on the newest innovations in CBD. You're in absolutely the right place. We are going to give attendees another minute or two to come in. It's been, I'm sure, a crazy day for everybody, as is every day, especially in this virtual world. So we're going to give people a few more minutes and then we'll all get started. So we'll all wait patiently and we'll dig in shortly. Okay, why don't we dig in? I can't wait anymore. I'm too excited because I've been fortunate enough to, Stephen and I have had some obviously conversations prior to tonight's webinar, and he's got some great things to share with us. So why don't we get started? So if you're here to hear about CBD and the latest innovations in CBD, and a little bit of education about CBD itself, then you're in absolutely the right place. And I will say as well that for those of you that are enthralled and stay right to the end, we have a couple special things coming up, one of which is a sneak peek into something brand new that most people have never heard of, but will be coming big to the market over the next year at minimum. And then also, Stephen has given us a discount code for anyone wanting to buy some of the things we'll be talking about this evening. So hang around, because not only will it be great up until that point, but there's a little cherry on top at the very end for us all. So here's what's going to happen tonight. This webinar is being recorded, so anyone that wants to replay it will be able to replay it at threewells.co, and also you'll be able to see it on YouTube. And we'll be sharing it with Stephen as well. So tonight, what we're going to be covering, CBD, we're all going to get a quick background on CBD, and just so we're all on the same understanding of what it is and what it does. We're also going to talk about how your body takes that in and how to not only get the most out of it, but also the most into your body. And we're going to talk about innovative ways that are coming and that Stephen has developed as far as taking CBD, as well as dosages and how much should you be taking. So tonight's special webinar is brought to you by threewells.co and also Meter at meterhemp.com. And what I'm going to do now is give a quick introduction of Stephen, who's a pretty amazing guy. Stephen has a marketing background, but he is he's holding on to that, but he's stepped into more of a pharma space, and he's got such a great group of people around him, of scientists and product development people, and he's taken all of that understanding and knowledge, not just of what people need and want, but how to get it to people in healthy and safe and ways that increase our wellness and our well-being. So Stephen is an innovator and a marketer and a product expert, kind of all rolled into one. And we're fortunate tonight to have him with us. And he's going to get into all kinds of details about the latest innovations in CBD, and of course, some of the products that he has to bring to us tonight. So with that, some of the logistics. There is a Q&A, and I ask that if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A and not in the chat. And that way I'll be sure to see them. Now, as far as question and answer goes, I will do my best to pull up those questions and bring them in real time as we're talking about these subjects and as we're going through this evening. And don't worry if we don't get to them during the webinar itself, then at the end, we have allotted some time for question and answers. So make sure to get those questions into the Q&A, and we'll get them answered as best we can. So with that, Stephen, what do you say we get started? And I think one of the big things, if you could help us all, is to really dive into CBD and get us all on the same playing field or the same page, whichever analogy you want to use about CBD, what it is and its benefits.
All right. So I'm going to try to share my screen here.
So Stephen, as you're bringing that up,
Yeah.
if you could just talk about, some of the key things about CBD and around there, really what they help the most, because you and I were talking before the call, and Yeah, one of the things you said to me was, hey, inflammation is one of the biggest things that CBD really helps with. And could you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, and maybe if you could pull up the PDF I sent you, then
Yeah, I'll
you,
work on that as you.
yeah. So I come from a decades now in the consumer world and really focusing on what drives consumer preference and helping companies. I've had an agency and I've helped companies really understand consumer behavior and give, like you said, Jason, or give people what they're looking for and what they want. I was introduced to this biotech company called Kelsey Biotech in Boulder, Colorado, and the management team needed to. The management team are all scientists, and they really needed some marketing help. So I was started out early on just advising, and I invested in the company. And but I came to them very skeptical. I was like, I'm hearing this thing about CBD, and it does everything for everyone, and I just don't buy it. So they had to convince me, and they sat me down and gave me a crash course in cannabinoids, basically. And it really comes down to, and how I explain it to my friends is, people say it works on pain and anxiety and helps sleep. It's like, how can one thing help on all those things? And the answer really is it does one thing. And I like people to think about the one thing it does, which is anti-inflammation, because inflammation manifests itself across pain, anxiety, sleeplessness, and so many different things. And so that really helped me understand that how really going after this one thing. And I learned just how bad inflammation is and how important it is. And it's in what we eat, it's in stress, it's in pollution, in terms of what creates inflammation in our bodies. So CBD and the cannabinoids around CBD are highly, highly anti-inflammatory. So in one person, inflammation may manifest itself in headaches, in another one in anxiety, in another person's sleep, or a combination of those three things. And so after that one thing, that root cause of all these things, then that's really where the magic happens. And that's what really turned me around when I started to learn more. And the scientists explained it to me in a way I could understand it. And my job is to take what they say and what their brilliance and translate it to everyday people like me who can understand this stuff. So then it really comes down to how we get it into our bodies. So clearly I was on board. Okay, they got me over my skepticism around, we'll just start with CBD, but there's lots of cannabinoids in the hemp plant. And this technology that they have is all about making it the most efficient and pleasant way to get it into our bodies. And if we look at CBD in terms of the two most popular ways to get it into our body are edibles and oils or tinctures. And what's fascinating in terms of my deep dive, which I'll just give you the overview, is that when you take CBD and you swallow it, so you take it in an edible, it begins a very long, inhospitable path through the GI tract, and finally, through the bile in your stomach, and it changes and degrades and changes and turns into metabolites. And by the time it gets to our bloodstream, there's very little left. And this was fascinating to me. We all know the stories about edibles taking a long time. People that take THC edibles and nothing happens for half an hour, 45 minutes, so they take another one, and then it finally gets to them and it hits. Well, THC throughout this process actually intensifies. So that's why when we don't feel anything, we take more. When it finally all hits, it's now being intensified by that process. CBD is the opposite. There's a thing called first pass metabolism that actually degrades and decreases it. And this is what blew my mind. If you take CBD through the stomach, you'll end up with maybe 6, 7, 10% of the cannabinoid that you started with. So if you take something that's 10 milligrams, you can end up with a tiny fraction of amount, under a milligram.
No, if I take that on, if I pay, I don't know, 50, $60 for a tincture, I'm really only getting, and not to make it all about money, but I'm really getting $6 worth of value out of something I paid $6, 60
Yeah,
bucks.
mostly on the edible side, on because that's definitely going through your stomach. Now the and before we leave edibles, it's also loaded with sugar. And if the core issue that we're trying to deal with is inflammation, sugar is the opposite. Sugar is working against you. Sugar is inflammatory. So I'm trying to cut back on sugar. I don't want my anti-inflammatory to have inflammatory ingredients in it. So sometimes they'll put in other artificial sweeteners to make it. I don't like the taste of those. So we moved to tinctures, which is the biggest. Oils and tinctures were the biggest category in the CBD world, and they have the right idea. So instead of going through the stomach and having all that degrade as you go through, they're using the capillaries under your tongue. It's exactly the same way as smoking or vaping, which is capillaries, but they happen to be in your lungs. And most people these days, especially with COVID, don't want to I would never smoke anything. So, I didn't even include that on this slide because, that's a more highly bioavailable way. So that's the word, bioavailability, is how much you start with versus how much you end with into your system. So these guys have the right idea. It goes through capillaries, not through the stomach. The problem with oils and tinctures that we felt, and why we didn't go down that path, is a few things. One is there's no such thing really as, well, there's hemp oil. When you think of you're taking hemp oil, you're actually taking hemp extract that's being suspended in oil. And it might be MCT oil, which is a medium chain triglycerides. So, it might be coconut oil. Well, coconut oil is 90% saturated fat.
90%.
90%. Lard is 40%, to give you an idea. Butter is 64%. So just to give you an idea of the saturated fat. Now, if you're in your 20s, probably not a big deal. I'm 60, almost 60, couple months. I'm trying to cut back on that kind of stuff. If it's oil, it's going to be olive oil. It's going to be healthier fats. So I'm really looking at the fats I'm taking in. Well, when you're taking CBD oil, you're drinking oil every day, and it's a highly saturated oil, saturated fat. So that's one issue. Sugar in the edibles, saturated fat in the oils. But like I said, it's the right place. They're using capillary absorption. Oils, however, don't absorb very well. We're water-based people. They don't. Now, some do better than others, but most, in generality, the oil doesn't absorb through the capillaries. There's two things that have to happen. It has to be dissolved and it has to absorb. Well, it's already dissolved in the oil. That's a good start, but it just doesn't absorb well. So you hold it under your tongue. You try to get as much, maybe 60 seconds, try to get as much absorption as you can, because that's much more effective. And then you swallow it and it becomes an edible, because it just goes down. Now, probably a better edible because it's dissolved already. So, maybe you have, depending upon the oil, maybe you have a little bit higher bioavailability. You get a little bit more to your system than an edible, but still really a fraction of what's possible. And so that's really kind of the foundation of what has established this brand called Meter, which is, can we take the capillary absorption of a tincture and the user experience, the positive user experience of an edible, and get the best of both worlds? And that's where we came up with it. So if we go out back to the slides, we can see the next slide, which is a comparison of the bioavailability.
All right, I'll get us right there.
So, as I said, we kind of put the edibles that go through the stomach and the oils and tinctures in the low bioavailability. Another big problem that I know a lot of people are sensitive to is you never really know what's in any of these things. I will say, if it's on 3 wells, you're in good shape, because you guys do a great job of making sure there's certificates of authenticity. you put us through our paces if we want to be on the Three Wells site. So you've curated that for people. So, but outside of that world, you really don't know what's in there. There's been a lot of testing done where people say no THC and there actually is THC, or it's different cannabinoids. So you got to be really careful with any brand you buy, to make sure what's in it. But what we've done is we've created a tablet that goes under your tongue. It stays there. It doesn't migrate around, so you swallow much of it, and it stays in place. And it's 15 milligrams, and you're going to get far more of that original 15 milligrams through this process, this method, than any of these other methods, except maybe smoking, vaping. But again, I choose not to use those. So we all wanted something that was smoke free, but got more to the system. It's also, it's a lesser important thing is taste. I mean, I've never talked to anyone who likes the process of holding an oil under their tongue and waiting. The meter is flavored with wintergreen. It's a very slight, subtle flavor, and I pop it in before I work out. I mean, there's nothing sloshing around in your mouth, so you actually can do it while you're working out, and it's wonderful for pre, during, and post workouts.
Hey, Stephen, it seems like every time I take a tincture, somebody asks me a question.
Starts dribbling down, yeah.
Yeah, you can't, it's in your, and you don't want to swallow it because you want to get full effect. So I want to come back to a couple of things you said there. And so, you hit on one of the key things here at Three Wells is we look at all kinds of products every day, and we look at all kinds of manufacturers. And we're and I appreciate you calling that out. We're very particular about who we put on our site and who we talk about and who we have these webinars with, simply because there is a lot of smoke and mirrors, and you can refer to it any way you want. And when we saw you and your product and the ease and the simplicity, so. I want to come back to, you said 15 milligrams. You highlighted the fact that you're going to get the majority of that 15 milligrams of CBD in. But the other thing I noticed with tinctures is, sure, you get a dropper and they have the lines on the droppers and things like that. But would you say that the dosing, not only the bioavailability, to use your word, is better, but the dosing is more accurate because it's in these pills? Because that's one of the things we thought at Three Wells.
Okay, so absolutely. Precision is a critical factor. So every time you put a tablet in your mouth, you're getting 15 milligrams. You're starting with 15 milligrams. The droppers are, I look for the ones before I had this, I look for the ones with the lines on it. That's going to be less precise. You don't know exactly how much is absorbing. And definitely versus, another thing I forgot to mention about edibles, or if you swallow the tincture, the oil, if it's just like drinking alcohol. If you had a big lunch right before this, that's going to absorb more. If you had a more fatty lunch, there's variables that happen when you take things through your stomach. There's variables that happen when you have an oil, that some oils are different than others and will absorb differently. This one, so it's not just precision, but it's consistent precision. Every time you take one, it's exactly the same amount.
Okay. And I'm going to come back a little bit because I was enthralled in what you were saying. But one of the things that strikes me is it's in your mouth, right? I default to, well, if it's in my mouth, it's going into my stomach. But you talked about capillaries and things like that. So it really isn't, as much as it's in your mouth and you may be swallowing because of saliva, it isn't going into your stomach, right?
There's going to be always anything you put in your mouth that mixes with your saliva, you're going to swallow a little bit of it. Ours is the technology around ours keeps it in place. It stays there. I mean, it actually gets kind of creamy. It's not chalky at all, but it stays in place. It's not a liquid, and so you're going to consume by swallowing a tiny fraction of it. And one way to kind of judge that is how much you taste it. So if people say, oh, the tinctures taste terrible, well, they're tasting it because your taste buds are on top of your tongue, And when it hits those receptors, you're gonna have the sense of taste. That's because so much is going over your tongue, and then of course you end up swallowing it, which goes over your tongue. So ours are very, very subtly flavored, and when I take it, I actually don't taste much of anything because it stays in place. So no, it goes into your mouth, but more like smoking or vaping, which goes to capillaries in your lungs. That doesn't go to your stomach because you're inhaling it, going to a different place. This is going to a different place, so you're not really swallowing much at all.
So
I know somebody asked about how was bioavailability measured, and we're using studies, out third-party studies. And the way bioavailability is measured is they do blood tests. So they take a base reading, someone takes something, and then they take different blood readings at 10, 15, 20, different times. One thing about using the capillaries is we go, it's incredibly fast. So it dissolves in, it depends how much saliva you have. It's 1 minute, maybe a minute and a half, it's dissolved and gone, maybe 2 minutes. In 10 minutes, it's in your bloodstream. With edibles, that could be 45 minutes or an hour. So but probably beyond all of this, it's just a more pleasant experience. You're not sitting with oils, or you're not eating saturated fats, you're not eating sugar, and there's absolutely no sugar. It's vegan. We basically just have not chosen to take the CBD and suspend it in saturated fats. We've created a technology that makes a particle that absorbs incredibly well through the mucosa into the capillaries.
Okay. Well, you answered one of my questions there. I want to highlight that, and that's the taste.
Yes.
So some people like tinctures. Maybe they like that. The taste to me is a little rough. And it was interesting. You said it washes over your tongue, which is completely exactly right. And I didn't think about it. And then, trying yours, there was that hint of mint, I called it. And I know it's kind of wintergreen flavored, but that's why I'm not getting that like a really powerful punch of flavors, because it's actually not washing over my tongue, which is good because it's being absorbed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, it's absorbing before it gets to your taste buds.
Got it. Okay.
But we have flavored it so that if that happens, in fact, some people, you can very much use this as a mint if you want. You can put it on top of your tongue. It takes about 6 seconds to dissolve, then it just goes away completely, but you're going to swallow more of it and therefore lose some of that cannabinoid load, a lot of the cannabinoid load.
One of the things I noticed is that taking a tincture, if you're out, even at home or with friends, or people are around and you take a tincture, that you always get that, what is that? Which isn't a bad thing, but sometimes you don't want to go into this, discussion about CBD. But one of the things I noticed about when, first trying yours is it's very discreet. And not that I'm trying to hide anything. It's just, instead of pulling out some contraption, basically,
Yeah.
I can it just looks like a mint.
It just looks like a mint, right?
Yeah.
And it's incredibly discreet. I have a little bottle in like every bag I have in the gym bag. It's very, very easy to and portable. And if the glass broke, I would be tragic, but the oil wouldn't get all over everything. So it's very discreet and very portable.
Great. Okay. Hey, can we talk a little bit about dosing? I know you said there's 15 milligrams in each tablet. Can you give us any idea? Should we be taking 1, 2, 3? Any idea?
So that's something that, and I've learned this through, even when we look at aspirin and you turn it around and you look at, take 2 every 4 hours. I've learned a lot about how general that is. I mean, we're all different body masses. We're all different, metabolisms. That's very, very personal. And so even when I just take, I don't really take any analgesics anymore since I found CBD, but I'm being very careful about starting slow and starting low. So I started with 15 milligrams a day of this product. And I really liked I liked what it did in terms of just kind of a nice, calm, even feeling. I mean, we all, people on this call probably are using CBD, so they know. It's just that you get more of it, so you don't have to use as much, like you said. So you're not wasting your money. If I'm feeling anxious or something, I might go to as much as 3 times a day. So it's really dependent upon the person trying it first, and then whatever particular situation you're in. So I called the first, our first SKU, our first product out there that's on the website. We only have one right now, but I called it daily, because I feel like 1 a day would be kind of that general amount. And like I said, I might take 1 before bed. If I had a tough day, I might pop 1 in before I go to bed. And I just, as I'm falling asleep, I have it in my mouth. So again, I think that's very, very personal, and we are careful not to say, no, it's always this or it's always that. And that's the case, not just for us. Any product you're taking, I think that's good advice. And even other products in terms of sublingual. When as I got to learn more about this business, I now take vitamin D sublingually. You can go to the drugstore and just buy, it's a little tiny one, and I take vitamin D that way as well, because I know I'm getting more of it into my system.
Now, you mentioned a few minutes ago, you mentioned just a minute ago, you take it before bed, but I think you also said you take it before you work out.
Yeah.
Any share with us when you take it? I know, it's up to an individual and how much and when they take it, but when do you do it?
I do it when I definitely, I never do it. I never miss it before a workout. So I always take it before I get on the bike or I'm working out. And I just feel like I've had knee surgery, and I just feel like, just for the anti-inflammatory properties in the joints is good.
Mhm.
And then before bed, it's more about sleep and anxiety, and it works in both ways.
Right.
And I think that's the same. I want to make it clear that's the same that's CBD. CBD is a molecule. So this CBD and that CBD are exactly the same. So our brand versus somebody else's. Our competitive advantage is, or why we're in business, is we're going to get more of it, more of that wonderful molecule to your bloodstream in a more enjoyable way. I think the user experience is far better. But I'm more of a proponent for CBD. If you have something that's working for you and it's an oil or please, I mean, that's stick with it, because I think I just really believe in the properties of CBD.
Okay. And I put, so people can recognize, because you had said daily, and you can see on the bottom of the bottle, I put it up on the screen for you here, what it looks like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this, if you go back one, there might be, yeah. So this is kind of the visualization of our brand. CBD, again, it's a molecule. In this particular one, we use isolate, and so it's pure CBD. There's nothing else in that, in terms of active ingredients. There's nothing else in the product, no other cannabinoids. And then there's no oil. So we don't take out the oil. We just never put it in the oil. Now, you might have heard about full spectrum. We'll have a full spectrum out soon, which is just, I don't know if we want to get into that, but there's isolate and there's full spectrum. Some people think full spectrum is the way to go. We're going to have that as well, which is pretty much all the cannabinoids in the plant. And when we do it, we're not just going to, so when you take CBD oil, and people say you have to be very, very careful. People say it's 1,000 milligrams of CBD oil. Well, probably not. It's 1,000 milligrams of hemp extract, and one element of that is CBD. The CBD molecule is in there, but it's a fraction of that 1,000. So for us, when we say 15 milligrams and there's 30 in the bottle, that is all CBD. There's nothing else diluting that. We will have a CBD full spectrum soon, if in the next month or two, and that will have more cannabinoids in it, kind of the full plant, and a little bit of THC, because that comes with it too. And we will increase the CBD, so it's consistently 15 milligrams with isolate. So we're basically creating this idea of custom spectrum. that every product we come out with, and this is brand new and this is the first, but will be some combination of cannabinoids, either one by itself or several together, or full spectrum, and then goosing it up with isolate. So everything's precise. That's one thing about full spectrum, is one bottle 1 week could be a certain number of cannabinoids, and a bottle 2 weeks later might be different. So we're going to keep everything very, very precise in terms of the lead cannabinoid.
Hey, while we're talking about formulations, there was a question in the chat here. Are you able to formulate to contain a mix of cannabinoids and terpenes?
Yes. So the full spectrum we have will have a mix of terpenes in there.
Okay. And somebody put in the chat here, it's not a question, more of a comment about canine studies. A dose of every 8 hours would be best, but no one doses TID a day, so it's recommended BID. Not sure what that means.
Again, size of the dog. I give my dog CBD. She's an old girl, and she seems to be better from it. But you know, they can't give you any feedback, so you got to be careful with just the amount of dosing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about the full spectrum. On taste. So one thing that is so kind of distasteful with a lot of the oils is their full spectrum, and that means the terpenes. So if somebody brought up terpenes, well, terpenes are what gives marijuana the smell and all the different smells, and those can be really what contribute to the taste. So on our full spectrum one, we have increased the mint and actually used peppermint. And again, it's not out yet; it's coming soon. But that's something that we did to really to make it taste better than most full spectrum products. So everything, every part, every bone in my body is all about user experience and making this pleasurable for an audience, and being kind of the representative of the consumer.
Got it. Okay. So where to buy? I mean, we've heard all about it, and I've been fortunate enough to get it, but where can others get it?
Well, that's easy. There's only one place right now to buy it. At some point, we'll probably go to bricks and mortar retail. But right now, you can buy it at meterhemp.com, and you can also click through Three Wells and buy from Three Wells through and it'll click through to our site. Yeah. And you can buy at meterhemp.com.
Okay. We did have a question come in here just now, Stephen. So from a quality perspective, is Meter released under GMP such that it can be supplied into internal medicine or international, medical markets where CBD is classified as a prescription medicine?
Not yet. We're working on that. So that's GMP means good manufacturing practices. It's a certification that you apply for and you get, and we are building that out. We're using we're using that, what they call the standard operating practices of that, but we have not yet been certified, so not yet.
Okay. Now you were sharing with us, and to me, this is a big deal. Something, even another innovation you're coming out with, that if you're in the cannabis industry, there's a lot of talk, but not a lot of things in the market about it. And you and Meter are taking action and bringing something what we think is pretty phenomenal to market. Can you share that with us? And I know you gave me a little slide. I'll share.
Yeah. So the like I said earlier, there's lots of cannabinoids in the hemp plant, and ever since the Farm Bill passed of 2018, it's now legal. So there's a lot more research being done on all of the what might be referred to as minor cannabinoids. They're not minor in terms of their effectiveness. they're minor in terms of popularity right now. And there's one called CBG, and that stands for cannabigerol. And it occurs far less in the plant, so therefore it's a little bit it's rarer, but it's got very similar to CBD. In fact, they call it the precursor cannabinoid because from CBG come other cannabinoids. But we can basically take out the CBG as an isolate and put it together. We're putting it together with CBD and creating a pain roll-on. So this will be a topical. And again, no oils. Oils, like I said, we're not happy with the way oils absorb, their absorption rate, and they kind of ruin your clothes and get kind of sticky. And so this is a carrier that evaporates very, very quickly. Doesn't leave it absorbs very, very quickly and doesn't leave that residue. I use this. I have carpal tunnel syndrome, and I use this for temporary relief. And I have to say that for the FDA, because we're not a drug, but it works incredibly fast. So again, everything that our scientists do is about bioavailability and absorption rates and getting things into the system very quickly. And this is, I find it phenomenal. And what the research is being done finally on CBG, and a lot of learning's happening. So highly anti-inflammatory, a lot of the benefits of CBD, but there's evidence to show that it actually doesn't just combine to the cannabinoid receptors, but actually to the pain receptors as well. So everyone we've tested this with is 2A1 is extremely excited about this one, and because it's really changed their situation. So I'm excited about this. This should be out in November, and that's coming soon. And for the tablets that are out now, we're happy to give a discount code. So if you go to meterhemp.com and you can put in a discount code, just put in 3 wells, one word, and that'll give you 15% off.
Great. So the CBG coming in November, and you're kind of out on the forefront. So logic would say, hey, if you're out on the forefront of this, it's got to be pretty great for relief, focus on pain in particular. Yeah.
Yeah, there's things we'll eventually have a tablet as well. There's it's working across a lot of different things. CBG is a very interesting cannabinoid, and Google it, read some of the studies. It's pretty exciting. Personally, between you and me, I think CBG is going to be kind of the next big wave in the hemp world.
That's purely based on its effectiveness and yeah.
We hand this out to people, these samples to test this. We test things pretty rigorously before we roll anything out, and the response is just phenomenal.
Right.
Whereas CBD, some people take CBD in lots of different ways and it doesn't work. Most people it does. Some people say, oh, I don't really feel it, or maybe they didn't have the inflammation to deal with, so they don't see a net effect. This one's different. It's demonstrably different.
Okay. So I'm just thinking about everything we've heard thus far from you, Stephen. That we've heard back to the tablets. Sublingual, goes under your tongue. It's discreet. It's convenient. It actually tastes nice, which is good. It's not messy. And you're getting more bang for your buck if you want to measure things on dollars, but more bang in general because you're getting the vast majority of the CBD in your system. And I got to say the little bottles are nice too, because you can put those anywhere and you're not worried about it spilling, which is another thing I've had happen. And in November, we're keeping our eyes open for, and I haven't gotten a bottle of the the roll-on direct relief yet, for the record, even. So I'm calling you out in public that I haven't got one to try yet.
I owe you one. I'll get you one real soon. I know we got a question about the certificate of analysis, which I mentioned earlier, and that's on our site. We show, it goes through a third-party testing. Everything we do goes through third-party testing. You'll see exactly what's in it, what's not in it. We do heavy metals testing to show that it's clean. We do pesticide testing. All of that is all done on and shown on our certificate of analysis.
Yeah, and David called that out, and thanks for calling that out, David, because you're absolutely right. The COAs are important to anyone taking anything, and I got to tell you, the ones that don't provide COAs don't get on 3Wells, because we want to make sure everybody's healthy and safe, and if they're not running through their testing like you are, Steve, and you're taking it to independent labs, then you just can't trust it. So.
Yeah, and simply since, because I've noticed there's one thing that again, I come from the consumer package world, and it's a lot more regulated. The FDA is going to regulate hemp, and that'll get a lot of the bad actors out. I'm really looking forward to that because of all the people that are out there. But I've landed on some sites that have a COA, and then you read it, and they're not good. See what's in there. It's like, I think they hope that people just aren't going to read it. Just the fact of putting it up, is they'll feel like that's all people need to see, and they can kind of be complicated to read. But dive into them and make sure that you're happy with what's in the product.
Right. Wise words. Not enough people do that, unfortunately. So take the time; it's worth it. Okay. I'm just looking at our questions in our chat. It sounds like it looks like we've covered everything. So unless anyone has any questions, put them up there right now. We can answer them.
There's Q&A.
We got one here. In terms of your international aspirations, are you able to comment on the status of CBD isolate suppliers, Novel Foods application for the UK? Or your own application if you're following that pathway, that is, if you're planning on entering that market?
We're new. We're focusing on our website now, which only sells to the United States. We do have a company that's reached out from New Zealand who's going to be importing our product at some point. They're going through all of the testing and all of the licensing to make that happen. We have not looked at UK yet, but the international aspirations are definitely there. It's just a matter of moving with the pace of international law, and it's been challenging enough to just simply to get CBD online in the United States because of the prohibitions for so long, and how when that study came out, I mentioned where some journalists did 39, I think, different products, and some, I think all but maybe 2 of them had what they said inside them. When PayPal heard that, when they read that study, they just stopped allowing us to use PayPal. Any CBD brand can't use PayPal now on their websites. Rather than just going after the bad actors, they just said, we're out. This is, we're done. So I had to take, PayPal as a payment option off the website. So there's still a lot of hurdles here, and we'll get that going, and then we're definitely open to expanding beyond the U.S.
Yeah, it's quick aside. It is too bad that you get those kind of reactions from PayPal and others, because I can't tell you how many people we hear from on 3Wells and personally friends and family that your product and other forms of CBD and THC that have completely changed their lives. And guys like you and I, Stephen, are in this market, and that's a big reason we're in it, is to help people live well, do well, be well, which is the whole mantra of 3Wells. And being cut off like that's really tough. So anyone who's on this call, if you can help clear the path for great products like Stephen and 3Wells to continue to support CBD and THC and other things, and have at it. We need all of us need all the support we can get, because it is a helpful plant overall.
And what you said about changing people's lives, I've did a lot of branding work with helping Kashi, which was, really led the way in terms of healthier products early on, many, many years ago, and other healthy lifestyle brands. And nothing's given me the kind of emotional rewards that this has. The emails we get, I just got one today from a friend's daughter. Tried everything, tried all the CBD brands, all of it for her headaches. And today was the first one. She called and said, "This is the first time I've ever had anything that worked." So, and it could be that it's just that method of getting more to the bloodstream, and she just needed to dose a little bit higher, and this got it to her. And because again, the molecule is a molecule, but we got more of it to her system. So that's why I'm doing it.
That makes it all worth it right there. Seriously, it does.
Yep.
Thanks for bringing it to all of us, and I'll keep doing it.
Hey, I hope people try it. I hope people use the code, try it. If you like it, please let us know, put a review in, tell your friends. I mean, literally, you guys are the first to hear about this. We're just getting it off the ground, and we have high aspirations to kind of change the way people take CBD.
Well, Stephen, thanks for sharing all that with us. And from everyone at Three Wells and everyone on the webinar tonight, Stephen Addis, thank you so much for sharing your product and your knowledge and your passion. And in quick review, we've got Three Wells is the discount code for 15% off. You can go to meterhemp.com or threewells.co. Also, I should mention, you shared with us CBG. We thought at Three Wells, we were like way out there in talking about CBG until we started talking about you, and you're right there with us. But we did write an article on Three Wells all about CBG that anyone can check out. And this whole webinar will be replayed or available for replay on YouTube and Three Wells and through Stephen as well. We got an extra minute here. We got a chat that came in. And I don't want anyone to go with any unanswered questions or comments. It says, besides pain, perhaps a calming formula for those anxious in these trying times. Yeah, anxious in these trying times, lavender, etc. I think the big thing there from David is trying times. Absolutely.
Can you believe how trying the times are right now?
No,
it's just not fair this year. Our next product in the tablet form will be called Calm. It's very similar to daily, except it'll be full spectrum, which means it'll have a little bit of THC, that 0.3% or less THC, which most people find quite calming. We're not putting in other botanicals. We're sticking right now with cannabinoids.
Okay. Just making sure we have all questions answered and comments addressed. We have. So with that, Stephen, I said it before, but thank you very much.
Thank you.
And go have a great evening. And everyone else that attended tonight, thank you. Look for other webinars shortly from threewells.co. On our site, we announce them frequently. And get on our email list for everything you need and want to know about cannabis, CBD, THC, etc. And of course, innovative ideas and products and great things like Stephen brought us tonight with Meter. So everyone have a good night, and everyone take care. Thank you.
Thank you.